espero que nadie se ofenda, pero hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo.
Balcão da área, deu para Yaremchuk, cruzou o Gilberto, que confusão, vai ser o primeiro, tirou para dentro! Marca Darwin, é Benfica, é Benfica, é Benfica! Ele vai atirar! Absolutamente fenomenal da parte de Otamendi, vai errar, fez o alto para o golo, chapelou, tirou para dentro! Voltava o golo do Ribatejano, é Benfica, é Benfica, é Benfica!
Só nós sentimos isso.
Welcome to episode 97. Hello and Unsteady.
Today we have the usual suspects here. Myself, Mike. We got Bill. We got Oscar. We got Kenny. He had some technical difficulties, but he managed to get on. I'm assuming you're on your phone.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Turn your phone landscape so your image looks the other way. How are we, gentlemen, on this Monday evening?
Not bad, not bad.
Good.
Pretty good.
Everyone seems excited. Para a malta que esteja a ver em português, hoje temos o nosso podcast em inglês. Estão à vontade de deixar os vossos comentários na caixa dos comentários, as opiniões, as questões. Nós poderemos ir abordando os vossos comentários. Se quiserem o podcast em português, com um painel diferente, temos aqui quarta-feira, a partir das 21 horas, hora de Portugal. Por isso, estão à vontade de participar aqui no nosso cantinho. Hoje é o cantinho em inglês. Estejam à vontade e regressamos com outro painel na quarta-feira às 21 horas. Lots to talk about today. We have Portimonense 1, Benfica 2. We'll talk about that game, another come from behind. We'll talk about Svilad. His contract's ending. Seems like he's heading to Roma. But more talk about this thing that seems to be becoming more of a consistent, which is players running their contracts down, right? Do we think it's going to be the new normal? Are there ways that clubs can somehow avoid this, or do clubs really have to look at a 4-year contract more as a 2-year contract, right? And in year 3, basically make that decision, right? Are we going to cut ties and get back what we can financially? Or are we going to ride it out and lose significant money at the end of the year or at the end of the contract? Wasn't on the agenda, but I did want to talk about it quickly and see your thoughts on how, or if you think that a similar situation, we could be headed down that path in Portugal. Situation that happened in Mexico over the weekend, which was absolutely disastrous. And it made me think, and I wanted to get you guys' opinion on the rivalry, the hatred that there is outside of the field. We've seen certain situations in Portugal from a physical aspect with authorities, with fans. And do you think that should serve as an example for all those other countries around the world to, this is where you could be headed unless you kind of put a stop to it ahead of time. And then, of course, at the end, we all thought we were done talking about this topic a month and a half ago, but we're not. Pizzi had an interview this weekend with Record, which we don't know if it was consented or not, but regardless, he had an interview with Record. Bruno Lage had a comment in there. Rui Vitória had a comment in there. And a little bit more information came to light. I'm sure Oscar was very excited as soon as Bill sent the text message. He set his alarm clock so he can read the article, and then all he had to read is about 3 sentences, and he was convinced that what he believes in is what's the fact. So we'll touch on that quickly at the end as well. As always, those of you watching us live, join the conversation. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback, your questions in the comments. Let us know you're there. Give us a hello. Give us a good evening. As always, we appreciate it, and it makes us a little bit more interactive. Before we start, I just wanted to also say we surpassed 21,000 followers on our Facebook page. Over the course of about a week and a half, we went from 20,000 to 21. So a big jump. So appreciate everyone's support and following us, and hopefully you enjoy it. If not, we apologize, but it seems like people seem to enjoy us, whether they agree with us or not, I guess is indifferent. Also to mention that we got a new contributor to our website. We now have coverage of men's soccer. We have volleyball, men's and women's, and we now have futsal, the men's futsal. We have some coverage on our website as well. So the whole point is trying to create one-stop shop for Benfica as it relates to sports, to modalidades, and we're slowly getting there, but that's just one more step that we're taking towards that. Red Baron, he's back with us. Good evening. Good evening to you. Look forward to some of your thoughts on some of the topics that we have for today. And then last, before we get started, is Benfica's women's basketball team won their second consecutive Taça de Portugal this weekend, 78-82 against Gdesa Barreiros. So hats off to them. At least someone at the club is winning silverware, because the men aren't doing it at the moment. But maybe soon. We'll see. Portimonense 1, Benfica 2. A game that I feel like the perception is going to be that it was terrible, but I'm of a different opinion. But we'll get to that. Benfica started with Vlaco Dimos, Gilberto, Otamendi, Vertonghen, Grimaldo, Everton, Weigl, Tarat, Rafa, Yaramchuk, Gonçalo Ramos. Yaramchuk got the start. Darwin had been sick. He had missed some practice during the week, so not surprised that he didn't get the start, and he only came in the last 10 minutes or so. A game that we went down 1-0. And we once again had to come back from behind, and fortunately got the 3 points. Oscar, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on this game? And do you feel like, I feel like the perception is that it was a terrible game. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't the flashiest. It wasn't a game where we played our best. It wasn't a game that we created a ton of chances, but I also don't think it was a game that we ever looked uncomfortable, I guess. Even though when we went 1-0, I thought we still had control of the game. But thoughts on the game?
I mean, I agree with that. It wasn't a beautiful game. It was a game that we just did enough. If you think back, when we go down 1-0, we can almost guarantee that we either tie or lose. And for us to have the personality to come out and fight for the result. So it was, in a way, it was a good effort from the team. It wasn't beautiful, like I said. It was not a pretty game. I mean, I saw a lot of the highlights, and I saw a lot I didn't watch the whole 90 minutes or whatever. That this case was like 110 minutes. But I
it was like watched, 150.
Yeah, whatever it was. But I'm honest. I didn't watch the whole thing. But from what I saw, it was a game where they showed a lot of character. Like they came back from behind. And to be honest, when we went up 2-1, Portimonense probably had the better chances after that. Like in the second half, after we scored the 2-1, it was more Portimonense having those chances on net. So it wasn't beautiful, but it was a result. It was a W.
Bill, thoughts on the game? Do you agree with that? And I thought that, for me, Weigl had been accumulating a few games here where he wasn't at his best. We've talked about it before. Lots of games, lots of expectation, fatigue. This was a game that I thought he actually looked better. Statistically, a goal point rated him the best, 7.5 of everyone, but he had a 98% pass efficiency, 5 out of 6 long passes he hit. He won one-on-one battles, 4 of 4. He had 4 interceptions. He recovered possession 7 times. So it was a game that I thought that he looked like the Weigl that we had seen at the beginning of the season. Still not there, but thoughts, did you see the same thing, or do you still feel like he's on a decline.
No, I agree. I think most players will have kind of ups and downs throughout the season, especially when you're playing Champions League, the toss it, like it's every 3 days they have games, and eventually it's going to catch up to everyone. And we definitely saw that with Weigl. He definitely dropped off in form for a bit. But against Portimonense, I think he looked like his normal self, not 100% there yet, but it definitely a performance of his caliber. And I agree with what Oscar said. I think we were controlling the game, and I think we just had like mental lapses, like we've seen all season, where we just kind of turn it off for a second or two, and it always seems like whenever an opponent gets a single chance, they put it away, and like it takes us 2 or 3 before we can get one. And I think that's what happened with the Portimonense goal. I think I still don't understand what Otamendi was trying to do. Tarap did a horrible ball, and then Otamendi, I don't know if he thought Vertonghen was closer to him and was trying to cut the pass off, like the outside pass, but like I don't know, he literally moved and just gave the guy like
opposite direction,
mass pike size lane down the middle, and it was wide open. Like it just, I don't understand what he was trying to do there, but it's lapses like that we've seen all season that come back to bite us in the ass, and it was good to see that we were able to fight back and get the win and not drop points, and what is now looking like a pretty tight second place battle. At this point,
don't get into
Benfica's,
that. That's one of my questions.
I mean,
don't get into that. That's one of my
at
questions.
this point, Benfica's squeaking out wins, which is, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. So,
yeah. Before I pass it to Kenny, did you think it was a penalty on Otamendi? I think it was in the second half. First half. Corner kick. Guy shoves him from behind. What do you think?
I mean, in Portugal we've seen it, but I think it would have been very harsh if it was a PK. It would.
Okay.
We've seen worse that hasn't been called, and we've seen less that has been called in Portugal. So I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was called, but in my opinion, I don't think it was a PK.
Okay, Oscar, I'm going to ask you before I go to Kenny. Did you think it was a penalty?
No.
Okay.
I think it would have been a very harsh call.
Okay. Kenny, thoughts on the game? Thoughts on the penalty? Because I know you were in the messages in our group chat and you felt. I thought that there was enough there. Again, like Bill says, we've seen them given, right? We've seen less given. So, again, Kenny, you and I talked about it as well in the group chat, which is that guy that came on in the second half for Portimonense. His name was Zapata. Like four plays in a row, like really hard challenges, didn't get a card, and then Paulo Bernardo makes one foul and gets a yellow card. Like it's complete. The criteria and the consistency is just completely out the window. But thoughts on the game, thoughts on the penalty, and then my question to you is going to be João Mario once again. Oh, Kenny sideways. Can you hear us at least? Can you hear me? Oh, that's there. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? No. What did he do? All right. While we wait for Kenny to come back, Oscar, what are your thoughts on João Mario? Right, another game where he didn't start, another game where he didn't even come in. We talked about it last week, right? Is he losing space here?
I think.
What do you read from it?
I think he needs a rest. I think we talked about Rafa too. When Rafa was like having bad performance after bad performance, we thought he needed to sit on the bench a couple of games, kind of recoup his batteries and go from there. João Mario is probably one of, if not our best midfielder. He is. So like we need him at his max, and him playing every single game is not going to get him there. He can't possibly stay at his top level for the whole season. So maybe recharging his batteries, maybe just give him a couple games and then come back fresh. I hope that's all it is.
Okay.
I saw a report today that was essentially saying he's done at Benfica and they looking to offload him in the summer.
Yeah. We also saw a lot of reports.
While Kenny tries to figure out his technology issues. Agripino, boa noite, Agripino. He says, boas, malta. Penso que o Veríssimo, desde depois de Tarata jogar titular, o jogo e a tática do Benfica melhorou, e com Gonçalo Ramos a titular também. Bill, what do you think of that? Because, and just to answer to Agripino, my thoughts is o Tarat oferece características diferentes que o Benfica não tem no meio campo, a não ser ele. Um jogador mais vertical, um jogador que consegue rasgar linhas com posse, sem posse, mas também é um jogador que desequilibra muito no aspecto de, como subiu naquele golo do Portimonense, em que ele arrisca muito e por vezes desequilibra a equipa que está em transição. Por isso, ele quando está bem melhora muito a equipa, mas quando não está bem desequilibra muito. E isso são as diferenças que fazem que ele, quando está bem, ajuda, quando não está bem, dá nas coisas que vimos contra o Portimonense. Let me see if Kenny's back. Kenny, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. So I was asking thoughts on the game and thoughts on the fact that João Mário didn't start and didn't even come into the game as well. Do you think he's losing space? I know we talked about it last week, but do you think that this is a phase of like, okay, we have other options? He's not really a starter anymore. He's not an automatic on the team sheet as he may have been 8 months ago.
Yeah, no, I think like we talked about it last week. I think he's going through kind of a slump, and he's kind of riding. I think Verissimo's riding the hot hand right now, and Tarat's gotten us had some good performances. They're not perfect, right? But he's giving us that that creativity up top, right? Finding those through balls and finding those spaces. So I think he's adding something that João Mário right now is missing. So I don't think it's the last we see of João Mário. I think as soon, they're going to kind of rotate him in. I'd prefer to see him, starting, right, a rotation from the beginning, not as a sub, because I don't like João Mário coming off the bench. So I think we'll see him again. In regards to the PK that you had mentioned, yeah, I agree that I don't think it's a PK, right? I think we see that a lot of pushing and shoving on corner kicks like that, right? It's just like you said, it's been called against us. We've seen it in other games, and it's inconsistent. So when you're taking a goal away from us in certain games because of a push like that, and then you don't get the call, I mean, it could have made a difference in this game, right? It didn't. So it kind of swept under the rug, like it's not that important. But if Portimonense ties that game in the second half, I think Wellington had a chance in that second half. He skied it over the net. But if he ties it up 2-2, you're looking at that PK as a difference maker. So it sticks to your mind. And in general, the game, these guys hit it. I don't think, and I agree with all of you guys, I don't think it was our best performance, but I also don't think it was our worst. It's a road win. Those are always tough. I think Portimonense has a lot of individual talent. I just don't think they're able to put it all together. But individually, they got some good players on that team, and I think Catalinho's caused us some problems. Wellington caused us some problems, but like Bill and Oscar said, I mean, that first goal, maybe a few weeks back would have totally destabilized us, and we were able to recover and get back into the game and win the game too. Especially, and then also that huge break in the middle of that first half. It might have helped us. Regain our composure and get back into the game. Yeah, and it also could have helped them, or could have helped us in the sense of killed Portimonense as well. Right. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on Agripino's comment here. And Kenny, I don't know if you saw it, but he says, desde que o Verissimo pôs Tarat a jogar titular, o jogo e a tática do Benfica melhorou, e com o Gonçalo Ramos a titular também. Red Baron says he's losing space in terms of João Mário. Tarat's becoming more influential in the team. Although he makes mistakes, he's also only one that pushes those passes. Of course, he's the one that offers. Yeah. Again, I think he's the only one that has those types of characteristics in our team. Right. A player that's able to carry the ball, to go one-on-one, sometimes more than he should. He says, intensidade que é coisa que o João Mário não tem. That's true. Yeah. He brings a different element. And then Agripino asks, tens razão, por que não jogar num 4-3-3 com Weigl, João Mário e Tarat no meio, Rafa, Gonçalo e Darwin na frente? Kenny, I'm going to give you this one and then I'll go around here. Do you think that system would work, a midfield three with Weigl, João Mário, Tarat, and then a front three, or it could be even a 4-4-2, but in this case, he's saying Rafa, Gonçalo, and Nunez in the front. So Rafa most likely on the right, Gonçalo in the middle, or Gonçalo on the left, and Nunez on the left.
or Gonzalo on the
Gonzalo in
left,
the middle.
Nunez in the middle. Do
Or
you
vice
think that,
versa. Nunes
or
on
vice
the left,
versa?
Rafa and
Correct.
Gonzalo in the middle.
Do you think that would work?
So I actually prefer the 4-3-3. So I kind of agree. I mean, will it work? In theory, I think it would give us more options, and I think Darwin now plays on the left. For me, he's more of a left winger / forward. So I think that would be a good position for him. And yeah, I mean, I would like to see João Mario in there mixed in, you know, that triangle midfield there, that diamond midfield. I think it could work. I mean, as long as Vel's the one that's taking the risk and João Mario and Weigl are kind of more central and stay in the midfield, I think it would give us more options and be more creative up top. So I do like the 4-3-3. I think position-wise, I think it helps Darwin. I also think it helps Gonzalo. I mean, he's not our best forward, but he hustles, man, and he's going to put pressure on the back line and work his way back too. So I think it could work potentially.
Oscar, do you think that would work? And Kenny, I'm just going to mute you when you're not talking, just because sometimes they're static.
Yeah, I mean, if you think without having Verissimo as a, yeah, you have to get muted, dude.
Hold on.
I'll
All right, go.
All right, without Verissimo because he's hurt. Because with Verissimo, I think the 3 backs is a system we should play with. I think it's the one that gives us the most guarantees. Without Verissimo and playing just Vertonghen and Otamendi, I agree with the 4-3-3. I was calling for that last year, even though, but replacing Taarabt at that time with Pizzi, right? If we couldn't have left Pizzi with just one center mid, but a triangle would have worked. So Taarabt is that type of guy that can play in front of the 2 midfielders, and I think it's a mobile front 3 with Ramos, Nunes, and Rafa. So I think that could be very dangerous and probably one of our best lineups, if not the best lineup to go with.
But don't you think that, right? Like, I get what Agripino's saying, right? But for me, right, even if you play that middle with Taarabt, João Mario, and Weigl, I think the difference here is that Gonçalo Ramos brings a different intensity level that João Mario doesn't bring, and a different, not necessarily intensity that Taarabt doesn't have, but more discipline than Taarabt doesn't have, right? Like, if you look at, and that's why I think it's working right now, because Gonçalo Ramos in between lines, right? He's a midfielder when we don't have the ball, right? And he's kind of like a false 9 when we do have the ball, but he has the ability and the discipline to be able to work off the ball, whereas, right, Taarabt doesn't have that, right? So if Taarabt's playing the front of that triangle, which I think is the safest bet, opposed to him playing so deep,
right.
I don't think that he has the discipline from a pressure perspective that Gonçalo Ramos has, which I think is why, and like Agripino says, I think it's working well right now because he's basically playing that 8 role that we don't have. And I think if we take him out of that hybrid role, I think we lose. But again, that's how I see it. I don't know if you guys see it.
You could essentially still have him play that, though, like with the 4-3-3, when we don't have possession, he can drop, and you're essentially just leaving Darwin and Rafa up top. So you're in like a 4-3-1-2 defensively.
It's more of like a mobile the top 3 with all of them like moving around.
It's like playing like a false 9, right? Like he's not your central forward. He's dropping more deep than staying up top.
You see that with Manchester City. They don't play with a striker. They play with 3 forwards that rotate and they move around. They pressure high. They're all mobile. So
they essentially play with 6 midfielders,
right? And but they move those 3. Like Ronaldo still plays as their number 9. Are you kidding me?
Correct.
That's the shortest guy on the team. So I think that's having a top 3 like that, especially if we have possession with 3 guys in the midfield, should give us them more possession, and that system might work. And then if you have to change it, you can always like take one guy, put Everton if you want to have more control or have a more of a a 1-to-1 type of guy. If you want to have more of a solid striker, take out Gonçalo Ramos or whatnot and put Yaremchuk, right? So you have options and to change the system however the team is playing. I think to start and have possession and have a more of a pressure up front is what Agripino said. It works best, I think, with this team that we have.
Fair. Bill, thoughts on what they're talking about? Carlos says winning ugly is what I miss most. That's true. It counts, right?
I mean, sometimes that's all you need.
That's all you got to do, right? You're not going to win pretty every game.
No.
Red Baron says, eu quando vejo o Benfica a jogar noutro esquema que não o 4-4-2, que nos deu tanto, faz-me confusão. O problema é que nos faltam peças fundamentais para um 4-4-2, box-to-box, e um Lucas Veríssimo e um Jonas.
Obrigado. Também eu queria.
Não temos a ferramenta para jogar num 4-4-2, infelizmente, neste momento. Bill, thoughts on that? I mean, you already kind of shared your thoughts, but anything else you would add to that 4-3-3, that observation that Agripino made?
I agree. I think like Kenny said, I think I would prefer a 4-3-3 as well. My concern is that the manager doesn't know how to scheme it up. Like he's been here for a while now, and we haven't seen like tactically any formation changes. Like it's the same 4-4-2 with Ramos dropping deep and playing as like a false nine hybrid role. We haven't seen anything other than that. Like you would hope, and I'm hoping that he has something in his back pocket. Like if it's not working, are we able to change it? And are you working on something else? Like,
well, we've changed it multiple times. I mean, I guess depends on how you look at the game, right? Like the way I look at it right now, Benfica, in my opinion, plays a 4-4-1-1. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
4-4-1-1 with Rafa on the wing, with Everton on the wing, Darwin kind of roaming around, and Gonçalo Ramos playing that role between the midfield and the offensive player. But then sometimes when we have the ball, it almost converts into a 4-3-3, right? So there's always different dynamics, right? When we look at the team sheet and they show the graphic on the TV, right? It's a 4-4-2, it's a pizza slice, however you want, right? Like that's just statically, right? But there's always going to be dynamics that are going to change based on the situation of the game. But again, right, you talk about Nelson Veríssimo having different plans, right? A plan A, plan B, plan C, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, I've seen a plan A, a plan B from him, right? I think we've alternated a couple of different dynamics. The problem for me is that I don't think that probably 90% of those plans work. I think the only one that works is the one that we're currently seeing today. And it took a little bit of time, but even still, it's not the greatest.
Yeah. By far, far from it.
Agripino says, o lado esquerdo do Grimaldo pode fazer bem com o Tarapte ajudar no ataque e assim ficas com dois avançados dentro da área, depois depende como o jogo se vai realizando. Do outro lado tens Rafa. It's true, right? Grimaldo likes to come inside, likes he can go down the line, right? And he was one of the elements that I want to talk on today. Is we've criticized him a lot. Defensively, he's not good. We've talked about him being better in that 3-back role. But I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought he had a monstrous game this weekend. Like, yeah, he was just all over the place. Nice strike.
Yeah.
And it just leads me to believe like the likelihood of him staying this summer is probably very unlikely. I think. Have you guys seen improvements based on feedback that we've been giving?
He's free, right?
No, he has one more year, I believe.
One more year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if Barca comes knocking, I think he's
very likely that they do.
He's a Barca boy. Like,
he's got one more season.
Yeah, and to your point from earlier, right? I mean, you're going to let him walk away in a year, or I mean, he's probably not going to renew, so you might as well.
And from reports, we've been trying to, and he hasn't.
Well, he's probably. I mean, do you think he's
26 years old?
You think he's going to renew, or he would rather take chances elsewhere?
He's been there for years, so I'm pretty sure he's not going to like just basically spit on the plate to give him food for the last
I mean, he wouldn't be the only one.
How many players now are doing the same thing? Mbappe's on his way out as well. Like it's
usually players that get benched or get troubles with the coach or have problems.
Not lately.
Dude, there's been some high players that have moved on.
It's not just Benfica play, dude. It's the way it's going now. I mean, Mike had mentioned at the beginning, these players that are on the last year of their contract, not renewing and walking away. Like Mbappe is a free agent at the end of the summer. Like he can go wherever the fuck he wants. Has he been benched? He's one of the best players in the world, and he's ready to walk. He's ready to walk away from PSG, or reportedly ready to walk away from PSG to go to Real Madrid.
Yeah, but
like there's times. there's times the team can't do anything. No matter how much money you want to throw at them, the player in their heart just wants to move. Like they just want to go. Like Ronaldo, when he left Man U, the top of the fucking world, best player in the world, wanted to leave Man U to go to Real because he wanted to go to Real.
Yeah, but he renewed with Man United and with agreement that he renewed to get sold.
Right, but I'm just saying, like these players often have like where they want to go. They know what they want to do. Either they renew with the clause that they can leave, or if they can't get the clause, they just don't renew and they fucking leave for free.
But Benfica and him can come to an agreement. Like we renew with you with this agreement that we have, that we set this clause for you, so the team that wants to buy you next year, when we let you go, has to pay this much, so we don't lose you at zero. I'm pretty sure Grimaldo would play like, dude, this team has given me this much. I will work with them so they don't get zero.
That's what we can hope for.
Right, but in the past, right, we've seen those clauses like skyrocket, right? Tremendous amount of money. So the player loses the leverage. If the team doesn't want to sell for that price, the player's stuck there now because he renewed for 3 or 4 years.
No, but this should all come to an agreement. Like Barcelona should meet with after Benfica should be meeting with Barcelona. Barcelona is a team that they want to go to. Hey, Barcelona, how much are you willing to pay for Grimaldo? And if we renew them, I think Grimaldo and Barcelona should have an agreement, and Benfica and Grimaldo should have an agreement, and should be nobody loses.
Yeah, but then at that point, then why renew, right? I mean, if the intention is for him to leave,
right,
or Barcelona to come and get him, then why?
Because if they don't renew next year, zero, right? And then why is Barcelona going to pay?
That's only.
But Kenny's saying, what's the motive for the player?
You just agree sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
you just agree right now to terms. Hey, these are the terms. You take them at the end of next year, or whatever. Why renew and then the player loses leverage?
Fair.
I actually think. I do think. I mean, I don't know if we're going into it, but I do think it is a new trend. I mean,
Save the thought. We're going there next. Red Baron says, but when you put someone like Chuk in, ele não oferece o ataque à profundidade. Foi isso que não resultou na primeira parte do Portimonense. Red Baron, I disagree, and here's why I disagree. And I don't know if you guys saw the same thing, but I watched Yaremchuk closely in this game, and there was about 4 times where he came across on a diagonal and made a run in behind the defensive line, a defensive line that was playing pretty deep. So there wasn't much space in behind, but he came out on a diagonal at least 3 times that I remember, and that ball was never played into him. Now, in the second half, mostly when Darwin came in, but more towards the end of the half, you started to see those balls get played in. My question to you guys is, my statement is that I think Yaremchuk has different characteristics than any striker that we have. I think Yaremchuk, fit, in form, confident, is the best striker that we have. But do you think that the lack of balls played into that space behind the defense is because the team doesn't have that confidence in him like they may have with Darwin, right? Like, I feel like Darwin, they just play it blindly, right? Like, he's going to get there, right? And again, I watched him closely, and literally at least 3 times I can remember, I was even texting with João about it, that they never played that pass to him. And there was a couple times where he threw his arms up and, like, you could tell he was frustrated. Like, he's making that run. He never got that pass. There's got to be a reason for it, right? Do you think that the team doesn't believe in it? Is that not the game plan? Like, I can't understand it. It drives me nuts. But I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Who wants to go?
I mean, I feel like he needs to stay here for a second year to show his true potential. I think we don't have the wingers that work for him. I think that our wingers all like to cut in and do the little tiki-taka, and then he's the type of player that you need crosses into the box, and we don't have that. The only person that actually crosses the ball to the box is Grimaldo. And
Gilberto's been taking clinics, like Kenny said.
right. But that's the only players that actually cross the ball. Now the 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, it's tougher for them to get up there and cross the ball and then come back and defend. The back 4 line. So he's I think it needs more time to basically fit into the system. And I hope he works out for him, that he stays next year and he proves us all wrong.
I hope so too. Kenny, Bill, anything you guys want to add to that in terms of Yaremchuk?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with Oscar. I think his best quality is the the type of player he is, right? I think we don't, like you said, we don't have that on the team. I think he's an out and out, striker, probably the only out and out striker on the team. And I think he needs more time. It is a timing thing with those passes. I just don't think they're in sync. So they just need more time to develop that confidence in him. And again, I think he's obviously going through a lot. He's got a lot on his mind. He's not playing to his full potential. So I think with more time, he'll be a better player.
Bill, anything you want to add to that?
I agree, and I think these guys touch on the points I'm about to make. But like, I think he's the closest traditional number 9 we have on the squad, and I think with those runs, if it's Darwin, I think, like you said, they just play it blindly because like his best trait is his pace, and Yaremchuk, when you like think of him, you're not thinking of it but his blistering pace, right? Like it's kind of holding a play back to net type of thing and get into the box. So I think there's they kind of hesitate on playing the ball, and by the time they can, it's too late. So I think they play it safe and just keep possession. But I don't think the system fits him. I think the system fits him. I don't think the players we have fit kind of what like his playing style. Like Oscar said, I think we need like old school wingers where they're going to get down the line and play lofted balls into the box for him. And I think that's where he could flourish.
Agripino, se parece avançado, acho 4-2-3-1, mas não esta época. Veríssimo melhor continuar com esta equipa. Like you guys said, right? Personnel-wise, tactically, right? There's some adjustments that could be made to fit his style. But with very few games left in this season, do you try to make something fit now or just play it out and readjust in the summer? One thing that I wanted to touch on in this game and get your thoughts is there was a big stoppage in this game because of the touches that were thrown or the flares that were thrown onto the field. Something like felt like an eternity, but I think they said it was like 10 minutes or something like that. And the fans just kept tossing them in there. And for me, there was a lot of different scenarios here. For me, it was one, the ref almost seemed confused on like what he needed to do. Like there's just seemed to be so much confusion. And then the authorities, like there was police just hanging out, like, and then they went and stood in a line, like staring at the fans as if like that was going to do anything. And they just kept raining down. And then there was talks of like, the No Name Boys were celebrating 30 years of existence, and they threw 30 flares onto the field as a commemoration of the 30th minute. And when I think back, right, and us living here in the United States, right, and things are different at sporting events, but like, can you envision that ever happening in an event like that here in the United States, like in a soccer game, like a stoppage that long and like no authority intervention, right? Like they would have had cops and security in that section. They would have cleared it out, right? And instead it just like continues. And I can't understand how in 2022, like you go to get into a stadium, right? And I saw people on Twitter saying, I went to get in the stadium. They made me throw my water bottle out. Meanwhile, people are getting in with 30 flares, right? Like flares are pretty hard to hide. Like I wanted to get your thoughts on like people were like, oh, it's the fans celebrating, and they asked Nelson Veríssimo after the game, and he said, "Foi uma manifestação dos nossos adeptos." And I think, right, he didn't want to really go into it, right, because then he kind of gets on the bad side of the fans, right? So I understand his approach to it, but like, am I the only one that thinks that's like absolutely ridiculous? Like as a fan, you're not helping the team, right? Like now Benfica faces the potential of fines. Benfica, I saw today, runs the potential of having to play a game with no fans, right? Like you're not helping the team. You're not helping the club, right? Like, so what kind, like, are you a true fan? Like, I understand, fine. You want to have flares, have them hold on to them, right? We've seen that plenty of times. 1, 2, you threw 30 flares. That game was very close to being suspended. What would have happened then? Like, Kenny, thoughts on that?
Yeah. So look, I do like that ambience in the stadium, right? I like to see that because it's part of our mystique, it's part of the culture. I agree with you. Hold them up or keep them in the stands. Don't throw them on the field because that obviously that's where the issue. That to me, that's where the issue is when you're throwing them on the field and you don't stop, right? It carries on and on and on. in regards to, I think we're not used to it because we've never seen that here in the States, right? That just doesn't happen. It's a different culture over there. Like, I've been to a few games. You kind of just walk through, you show your ticket. There's no like security line or anything like that. No one's checking through your pocket. So it's just a different culture. Unless they change that there, then they're gonna sneak this stuff through the stadium no matter what. Especially in the smaller stadiums. Like, I bet there's no one there to look at that. So I think until there's an actual game that is suspended with no fans because of this, until that actually happens, then it's just a threat that's all it is. It's just a threat. And the fans will take it as a threat and not as an actual thing that might happen. So unfortunately, I think it's just part of the culture there, and it's not going to change anytime soon unless they actually do, follow through with their threat and stop a game or, no fans in the stadium.
Carlos Amaru says, inexcusable. Red Baron says, no names in Newark, New Jersey did that once at Red Bull Stadium, and the cops came in immediately and grabbed a couple of drunken ones. They only had a chance to throw 3 or 4. Bill, I'll pass it to you. And I want to remind everyone that I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a Taça de Portugal game. I want to say it was Sporting Benfica, if I'm not mistaken, at the Estádio Nacional many years ago, where a fan died because of something like this, right?
Yeah.
Someone tossed one and the fan died, right? So it's not a new situation to us, right? Like, this has happened before, but again, as with everything else, right, there's a big hoopla that happens and everyone talks about it, and then it kind of like phases out, right? And then no one talks about it again until something crazy happens, like this weekend. It happened midweek in Sporting Porto, right? Not to the same extent, but there were flares, Sporting fans throwing them at the goal where their own goalie was. Like,
Didn't Pep pick up a golf ball?
Yeah, but golf balls
Like,
is
that's
like
just
a
golf
common
balls getting
theme in
tossed.
Portugal these days. But like, for me, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I agree with Kenny, where it adds to the ambiance, right? Like, you see the games where the fans get in a circle in the stands and the flares are lit up, and like, I get that, right? But like, throwing 30 of them onto the field is absolutely childish, regardless of what you're celebrating. Like, there's other ways that you could have done it outside the stadium, whatever the case may be. Bill, thoughts on this?
No, I agree. I think it all changes once they start throwing them onto the field. Like, I agree. I love seeing when they have them in their section at the stadium and you got flares going left and right, and like, I love seeing that. But once you start throwing them onto the field, like, I think that just changes everything. And like Kenny said, like, in I've been to plenty of games in Portugal, and I go in the summer, and like the small stadiums, like I went to a game in Chaves, I never got patted, like no metal detectors, like I just walked in. The only issue I had was the fact that I had a Benfica shirt on and I had to change it. Like, other than that, they let me into the stadium without fucking checking anything. And the same thing aside of the Luz. I went to a game, they legit, you walk in and they like pat your like armpits, and that's it. And like, you just don't have anything in your pockets.
I just when I went this summer, I went to see the Champions League game against Spartak, and I don't recall them even doing a check. I just remember showing my ticket.
Yeah, the last time I went, they checked, but it was like legit, like 2 things. They like check 2 spots and they let you in. So like, yeah, people complain that they're getting into the stadium and asking how they get into the stadium. I mean, you can fucking sneak anything into the stadium. They're not fucking checking for anything. I think the issue is once they start throwing them onto the field and kind of delaying the games from being played and kind of putting the players' safety at risk at that point, like, that's just stepping over the line.
Can I add one more thing too? Because I noticed, like, none of the players went over to.
They did
afterwards.
Correct.
Afterwards. Not in the beginning. Like, they had probably thrown already 20 of those flares before.
Yeah.
It was once the ref kind of said everyone to the back. That's when Vertonghen went over there. And Vertonghen was like saying calm down. But then he was also like, yeah. Like, they like to see that too, I feel like. So, I mean, they don't want to be penalized, right? The players want to continue playing the game. But I do think, calm down, like, let's not throw them on the field, but like, we want to see more of this kind of attitude from the player.
Oscar, what do you think?
It's simple. Whoever the stadium that allows that to happen, or that allows those people to get in with those flares, they get punished. They should get punished. If it's Estádio da Luz gets punished. If it's Portimonense gets punished, right? I could wear a Porto shirt and go to Benfica Porto and throw flares into the field, and then have Porto play with behind, with no fans for the next whatever punishment it is, right? So the stadium should get punished. So whoever's the home field is the punished. Second is you have cameras all over the freaking game, and now every single game is you have a bird eye view type of camera that you can legit like see who's doing this and ban them for the year. Like, let's get them out of not to go to any games. That's how you stop this shit. If you have flares and that's tradition to keep it in the air, well, that first of all, I don't agree with that. Like this, you go to Liverpool and you see chants and you have the fans supporting the team. Now fucking fire in your hands. So to me is ban those that bring it in, and second of all, ban the home field. That's it.
Man, what a hot take that is.
You actually do see them in the EPL now. Not as much as in Portugal.
Not as much, but you don't see them on the field.
No, they don't toss them to the field. You see them in the
right. But you do that once. That's it. That's like a one-time strike. You're done. Now you
don't see it very often in England.
So let me rebuttal that. Right, a club like Benfica, you're looking at that's additional resources Benfica could pay for to make sure that there's security lines or metal detectors or whatever to keep that stuff away. But the smaller clubs, they can barely afford to pay their players. Do you think they're going to put in security systems, or
that shouldn't be on the club? I think that should be on the league.
Okay, so if it's on the league, then if it's security, on the league, then that's on the league. Then you can't blame the club or the stadium for that allowance. Then that's got to be on the league.
Listen, like you guys all said it. People go in, they just pet you on your sides and they say go in. That person doesn't take much to pet you in your pockets or leave your backpacks in the car. Not allow backpacks to go in the stadium. Like, you go to a baseball game down here, a football game, and you can't take a backpack to the stadium. You can't.
Or you can't go in with a water bottle.
Right. So like it's called don't take this shit to the field. You're not allowed to get in with the shit on, right? And then if you have flares outside hanging out your pockets, it's very visible. You can see it. These people walk in with backpacks in Portugal, and they allow that. No shit, they're gonna have anything they want inside the backpacks. So it's a stadium thing. You're not allowed to walk into the game if you have a backpack. Period. Go leave it in your car. Come back. If you have flares sticking out of your pockets, you're not gonna get out of the fuck. You're not gonna get in.
You can't drink a beer inside the stadium, but you can fucking bring flares in.
I would agree with Mike that it should be a league.
It's a public safety issue.
Yeah, it should be on the league. I don't think it should be on the individual teams. And another thing too, like you said, like, oh yeah, they can spot the guys and they can ban them. It's totally different. No one's gonna, that kid or whoever that is, 4 weeks later, no one's gonna remember who that is. They're not gonna keep anything on him or be checking.
Right.
Hey, this.
But if he's in no names, if he's in the no names, like that guy said in New Jersey, no names, he's a sauce-you, right?
He doesn't have to be a sauce-you. It doesn't have to be a sauce-you. But that's one of the reasons that the fans didn't want the cartão do adepto, right? Because the cartão do adepto, you had to give your information, right? So it identifies you, and that's. For me, that's one of the reasons why people didn't want to go down that path, is because in the event that you do stupid shit, right, you basically identified already, right? Let me go through the comments here. Carlos says, flammables in hands of large groups of people in a frenzy. Common sense is lost. Red Baron says there's cameras for a reason. I agree with Oscar. Agripino says, infelizmente vai acontecer. I'm assuming
he just
is what he was saying.
Just added his last comment.
Red Baron says, I got news for you. Sometimes those pyros are there before the game starts. And I agree with you. And I've heard the same thing, that the clocks, like the no names, like the Diabos, like the Super Dragões, they have these affiliations with the club, whether we want to believe it or not, whether they're official clocks or not. And these things get into the stadium well before the games, just like the tarjas get into the stadiums before the games, right? So it doesn't create commotion during the game day. So I agree. I believe that a lot of these are already there. When they get there for the away games, right? Maybe not so much, right? Because it's not your stadium, but I agree. And I've heard the same thing. Carlos Amaro says the potential for something tragic is always there. It's already happened once. Knive KSLB, welcome. He said, good evening, guys. Enjoying your show. As for flares, it was stupid, selfish of them to throwing on the field.
Welcome.
Red Baron, what I mean, they're put there after the PSP inspects the stadium. Infelizmente vai acontecer como alguns países, não vai haver adeptos do visitante. Futebol não é guerra, mas sim paixão, adrenalina e amor. Já iremos a um assunto que toca nisso, Agripino, mas concordo. Red Baron says because they could be identified. in regards to the Cartão de Adepto, which is, I'm assuming, is what he's referring to. That's the behavior that prompted the bottom of the Cartão de Sócio, or Cartão de Adepto is what Carlos was referring to. And reason I'm sure it's not allowed in the stadium is because of episodes like that. We can't have nice things. And Red Baron says, we're going to jump on that quickly. Jumping away from this game to close it off, MVP, Bill.
I'll give it to Ramos.
Okay. I think he got voted by Sport TV as the MVP, if I'm not mistaken, of the league.
He had a nice
He did.
goal.
He did. He had a nice goal, tap in.
Hey,
Bill's still thinking about the one against Vitória.
It all counts for him. Anything counts.
Kenny, MVP.
I'm gonna go with a guy that probably doesn't get too many man of the matches. I think he's kind of playing well right now, and he's learned how to cross. And you mentioned it earlier. I think Gilberto had a good game, defensively and attacking wise. So I'll give it to him. And he got the assist.
Gilberto got a 5-8 in this game. He didn't get an assist.
He didn't get
no.
It was Rafa got the assist.
Rafa got the shot. It's not an assist. The goalie saved it.
Yeah.
Oscar, who's your MVP?
I think the most crucial moment of the game was Grimaldo's goal. So for that reason, and he had a phenomenal game. I think both attacking and defensively, he had a good game. So I'm gonna give it to Grimaldo.
Okay, Grimaldo got a 6.9 on goal point rating. Gilberto got a 5.8. Bill said Gonçalo 6.2. Weigl was the best goal point rating. Vlaco Dimos was the lowest with a 4.9. Yaramchuk with a 5.7, done up to the 6. Rafa with a 6.3. So 3 points. We move on. We got Vizela on Friday. Next topic here, and I'm going to go out of order just to kind of jump on the topic that we were just talking about. For those of you who did or didn't see, but this weekend, a game between Querétaro and Atlas in the Mexican League, all hell broke loose. Second half of the game, fans started fighting in the stands. Fans that were bystanders ran into the field to get away from the chaos. For any of those who have been on social media, the videos of what happened are absolutely atrocious. Literally, like, unbelievable scenes. I mean, the numbers, the last I saw was about 22 people were dead. They were taking people's clothes off, like, just absolutely sickening. And what I want to go to here is, right, Agripino touches on it as well, right? Futebol não é guerra, mas sim paixão, adrenalina e amor. And what I want to get to here is, in the Portuguese League, we've seen, right, it's very tribal. It goes to the roots of the rivalry, right? And we've seen situations where outside the stadium, cops have beaten up, old people. We witnessed it a couple of years ago. A police officer beating up an old guy, beating up a dad with his son holding his hand, right? We've seen fights in stadiums. We've seen fans light seats on fire in stadiums. And my question to you guys is, having seen what happened here, right? And I know that the stigma is, it's like that in South America. Obviously, Mexico is not in South America, but that Latin America type mentality, that mindset. And my question to you guys is are we I feel, after seeing what happened this weekend, that if things aren't done in Portugal to address things now that we've already seen and lived through, I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong, that we end up experiencing something like this in Portugal sometime soon. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, do you think that could be possible somewhere else? But again, I would imagine that no one thinks it's possible in their stadium. It happens in Brazil. It happened this weekend. Should this be a red flag for every league, every, public safety organization in sports to be like, listen, like, football is football. It should be exciting. It should be passionate, but like, there's a limit. And it went way beyond that limit this weekend. Also, I'm going to start with you because I know that you and I had gone back and forth on it in our group chat.
No, I mean, I saw you sent the Twitter videos, and I legit was watching it, and I was watching like this, like because
I watched so many, dude, and it was so bad.
It was sickening to watch, especially when people were like legit, like almost dead on the ground, naked, and people still kicking their heads and stomping on their faces, right? To me, it's like that's animals. Those are not humans to me. Those people that deserve to be in a cage, legit a cage, and throw an lion in there so they can have fun with them. That's how I feel about those people. And second of all, I would think Quarantaro, whatever the fucking team name is, like I think 2 years suspension, no fans, like hands down, nothing, no fans whatsoever for those fucks. And if they're cartel or not, they're pieces of shit. Those and it was just basically, it's not like 3 or 4. That's like almost half a stadium of those
It was
fans
chaos.
attacking the people, the bystanders. They're attacking families, like kids, girls, like wives, husbands.
Anyone that had an Atlas shirt, they went after.
Anybody that had an Atlas shirt, and they were getting attacked. There was people from the innocent people from Quarantaro that said, "Please take off your shirt so you don't get beat up."
Yep.
Right?
And some gave their own jerseys to the other people so they wouldn't
can
be
get out of the
identified.
stadium. Like, it's insane just because you have a jersey on, you really like you can die going to one of these games. To me, it's sickening. That's worse than animals. I don't think animals do what these people did. I hope they get identified and spend like the rest of their lives in jail, if not with a lion in a cage.
But I feel like, and Kenny, I'll go to you. I feel like, right, like people in Portugal have said it before, right? O futebol em Portugal não é clima de família, right? Not anymore, right? And if we're already in a stage where it's not a good environment to bring your family, to have a day out with your son, right? To be able to take your kid to a Benfica Porto, a Porto Benfica, a Sporting Benfica, right? Like between the top 3, if you can't take, right, and I'm going to say more for the away fans, right? A Benfiquista going to the Porto Stadium, a Porto fan coming to Benfica, right? Because none of us are innocent, right? There's bad actors amongst every fan base. But if we're already at a stage where there's constant golf balls on the field, there's bullets thrown on a field, like if that's not a threat, then I don't know what is, right? You're conditioning a lot of things that go into that game. And I feel like we're already there. What's the next step unless we take action? Kenny.
Yeah, so this is a tough subject to talk about. I mean, I saw one of the videos that you had sent and I couldn't even finish watching it because I thought it was so gross. Yeah, it's tough. I think it's a different I do think it's a different a difference between like South American or Latin American soccer versus European soccer. It's not to say that it couldn't happen in Portugal or in Europe, but I think it's very rare that something like that would happen in Europe. In regards to, how does this translate? How do we, make it from not happening in Portugal? I've been to a couple of games. I haven't been to any like rivalry games in Três Grandes, but I do feel like the stadium is pretty safe, even for away fans. Like I went to Vitória de Guimarães, and I actually was when I was walking around the stadium to get in. The police actually stopped us to allow the Guimarães fans to come through like this gate into the stadium, and they blocked off both sides, and they walked in, and then we continued our way. I didn't see anything, egregious or anything like bad happening. So I also believe that there is a section within the stadium that's for family. I think it's a zona familiar or whatever it's called, but it's just, I think it's a sectioned off area for family and kids, right? To go to the games. But again, I've never been to a big game, so I've never felt threatened. I've never gone to an away game. So that's a different view of it. I'm sure there's incidences, like individual incidents, but I think those people they're not the fans, right? These are just like people there to cause problem. It's premeditated. It's people going in there to cause havoc and not to enjoy the game or enjoy the rivalry or enjoy the day, right? They're not fans. I don't consider them fans. And the same thing that happened in Mexico. Like I don't consider those people fans. They're just, they're there to cause issues. And unfortunately, the team pays for that, right? The team now is I'm sure they're going to get penalized, and the true fans are going to get penalized by not being able to go watch, their team. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's I do believe it's been worse, right? I think even in Portugal, I think it used to be a lot worse than it is now. I could be wrong. I don't go to games that often, but I do think that it's a different culture between both areas of the world.
The difference is really because if you open up the gates and allow Porto fans, Benfica fans to walk into the same stadium, same thing is going to happen. All right.
100%.
It's if you legit let them walk together and
agree.
It's going to happen the same exact thing, because Porto fans, Benfica fans, they hate each other so much that they're
going to beat people to death.
You never know, dude. I've seen worse. You see people meeting up at the guy that ran the guy over from Italy, whatever it is, the Spartan fan. You saw that kind of stuff happening just because they just got together. Oh, let's go fight outside outside the stadio. Like it can happen, especially because they're swearing at each other the whole time, and as insults can escalate to something else, to a fight, and then somebody gets stabbed and somebody does. So it can escalate to that point. The thing is, Portugal is doing good, and I think it's prevented it this so far, is they banned alcohol from stadiums. And alcohol is a major part of these things happening, okay? If you
Especially
start
this weekend.
alcohol for 90 minutes in the game.
They drink before the games, though. They have the stands outside.
Yeah, that's fine. But like, if I went to the Benfica game in Estádio da Luz, and legit, I had time to get there and walk into the stadium. They don't have the tailgating like with tradition like we have here, right? So it's just you go to the game, watch the game, and leave. You don't have alcohol inside the stadium, because if we have alcohol inside the stadium, a lot of people don't know how to control their alcohol, right? So it becomes just even a stumble can create a fight, right? So I think, and then like you said, the fans walking in a group, like with the cops on both sides, like creating walls just so they can get into their section and then close off that section and let the other fans go in is a major thing. You don't see that in Latin America. You see people walking in like the stampede, and that's obviously going to create issues.
But don't you think, right, and Bill, before I pass to you, don't you think that the fact that we have to have police escorts to escort fans into a sporting event is a problem in itself, right? Like, why can't I like when we talk to friends of ours that are in Europe, right? Like Red Sox Yankees, one of the biggest rivalries in sports, right? Red Sox and Yankees fans sit amongst each other in the stadium, right? Like, there's no sections in U.S. sports that I'm aware of, right, that has a designated section for the away fans or the home fans.
Football is
where.
Football is. I go to the Miami Pats game, and there's definitely a Miami section, and there's a new Patriots section.
I've never heard of that. Kenny, when you went to go watch the Cowboys at Gillette, did you sit in the Cowboy section?
No, but there were a lot of Cowboys in that section. Let me tell you. No,
but like,
it's not like in Portugal you have like at the side of the Luz you have the Gaiola.
Cage.
You got the Gaiola. Like they don't have that here.
But those are for the ultras, right? Those are for the clocks. I mean, you see, my cousin's gone to a Porto game with my other cousin who's a Benfica fan. Like they've walked in together, right?
They sit amongst each other,
right? I think the section off is for the clocks, right? The people that are more likely to get involved into situations that are going to escalate. So I agree with Oscar. I think those clocks need to be separated. I think there should be a preventative measure, and Portugal has taken the preventative measure to avoid the escalations that happen in certain situations, like in Mexico or even in Europe, right? It happens. I think fights are going to happen amongst games. I mean, you see it in football here all the time. I mean, you see people, different teams, fans.
Yeah, people that are drunk,
right,
and punching each
alcohol
other.
Is a huge, alcohol has a huge influence.
But they're sitting amongst each other.
Right. Yeah, and look, it's not going to just it's not going to be like a pure family atmosphere, but I actually think when I've been to a game in Portugal, I think it's more of an family atmosphere at the Benfica game, right? I don't sit within the clocks, but where I've been sitting and where I've experienced the games, more of a family atmosphere than going to a Cowboys Patriots game here in the States. Like I would never bring my kid. Like they're swearing and bear tossing and shit talking like there's not a 5-year-old sitting next to you. Like it's ridiculous. So I mean it happens in every sport. I do think there's a difference between like the And I know it's bad to say, but in Latin America culture versus the rest of the world,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
but you saw that I don't know if it was the Euros or the World Cup where they broke down a city, the fans that came over from whatever country it was. It was not too long ago. It was the last tournament.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember who the fans, what country
Yeah,
they were
it
from.
was like Netherlands or whatever it was. It was like
Might have
legit
been.
chaos,
Tore the
and
whole
they
city up.
destroyed the whole city. The cops couldn't even control it. So like,
I mean, England fans have done it.
England, but it's like this tournaments that happen. Like these people come in and they just come to destroy, not to be
Right.
fans. Like Kenny said, they come to fucking be hooligans,
Right.
And that's what it is. They're hooligans.
But what happened in Mexico to me is just
on a
like
different
beyond
level.
my imagination.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I couldn't even think of like I saw that one guy. He was literally stripped naked, and they were stomping on the guy's head.
Literally,
that's
like the
just-
guy's motionless.
There's not any explanation I can give for that. Like it's just there's no words that like I can put together
That goes.
to explain
That's
that.
like so far beyond sports.
Right.
So
It's-
far beyond it.
It's pretty crazy. And
Bill,
to think yeah.
Before I go to you, Bill, I'm going to just run through these comments quickly. Kevin says Kevin switched his profile, so now he's on his real profile and not a code name. Montreal's playing Cruz Azul in Mexico Wednesday, and it's going to be without fans. Egri Pino actually sent me a screenshot of the one of the news articles from Mundo Deportivo saying fans are asking for Mexico to be banned from the World Cup in 2022 and 2026. We'll find out what happens with that. Carlos said, don't forget apanhadores de bolas atacar jogadores only a few weeks ago. It's another situation. Red Baron says, fosse jogo nos anos 80 até com sacos de mijo leváveis. I've heard about that. Carlos says he thinks it's returning to those days in terms of what we had been talking about. Kevin says, I think it's culture. People take football way too seriously. O futebol é o mais importante das coisas sem importância. I agree. Kevin says, Oscar, I believe alcohol was banned in Brazil and still had a death this weekend, which prompted Abel Ferreira to question, what he wants to do with himself and his family if he wants to stay in Brazil. Red Baron, I'm assuming in regards to what we talked about here in the States, he said there's not that passion like in soccer. Things improved with better organization with the number of gates and smaller seating sections, but we keep excusing and tolerating organized groups who almost always are the ones who turn violent.
Because if you go with your friend to a soccer game, most likely you're not going to attack anybody because they're there with their friend. Now, when you have a Scosta skins, like they used to say, with 20, 30 other fans next to you chanting, you feel like you can do anything you want, right?
Invincible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kevin says Europa Champions League matches often have ultras ruin city squares the night before. Exactly what Oscar was talking about in terms of the last international competition. Bill, to close it off, what do you want to add to this topic and where we stand?
All right, I mean, I agree with everyone's point. Like, I think what happened is insane, and like it's so hard to like comprehend that like these people went to a game and that's how it turned out. Like, it's crazy. But I think what Portugal does well, and I think a lot of other countries do it in Europe, with these traveling supporters, they make sure that they're like heavily guarded. Like they in Portugal, like especially the with Porto, Benfica, and Sporting, like when those games happen, they're closing down streets to allow those like Sporting fans to get to the side of the loose. Like they're making sure that there's no point from when they leave wherever they're meeting up to when they get to the stadium that they're going to cross paths with any of the no-name boys or Diablos Vermelhos or any of that. And I don't think you're ever going to get to the point where you're going to get rid of the clocks. Like, I think that's a very hard task and a very hard thing to ever achieve. And I think the best you can do is try to mitigate any of these like circumstances from ever happening. And I think having like the police guard them as they get to the stadium and having the designated areas for those clocks and having it so they can't like get into the other section of the stadium, I think that is probably the best thing that they can do. And I can't remember ever having like a circumstance like that where like at a game or after a game, like these huge brawls happen. Like you hear about it like a day before or a day after the game or like at night, like there's all this stuff, but like on the day of a game, I can't ever remember hearing about like these huge brawls happening between between fans. Yeah, you hear it like the bus on the highways getting freaking pebbled by rocks and stuff, but I mean, nothing you can do about that really. Like, unless you're closing down every overpass on the highway.
Sure.
But
and they have cops that follow.
I have a fun question for you guys. You know how we go to you see it on TV, like when Benfica plays Porto, Benfica plays Porto, the video or TV leading up to the game, it's always like, oh, o autobus Benfica está a chegar ao estádio, blah blah blah. And then when the stadium is getting packed with Benfica fans, say this is in the Dragão, right? The Benfica fans are going, and you see the big crowd of Benfica fans going into the stadium, right, surrounded by cops. If you had to go to the bathroom and you left that crowd, and you had also Benfica shirt and all that, and you had to go to the bathroom, and you lost that crowd. do you guys
take that shirt off real quick?
Do you guys take off your shirt?
I'm sure there are that do that. Right? It goes back.
You take the shirt off and you put it in your cuecas, dude, and you just run.
It goes back to, I mean, and a lot of times, and not so much, but like if you look at the group of the ultras, a lot of them have hoodies, a lot of them have face coverings. Not many of them are hanging out with just a jersey.
They don't wear jerseys. They're all like covered up in just random jackets.
Red Baron says they wear diapers.
Don't leave you pee as you walk. Just go.
I'm pissing my pants. I don't give a shit.
I'm not going to be found. Right? It goes back to the comment you made, right? Senses costas quince, right? And then all of a sudden you find yourself by yourself in the urinal in the bathroom. You turn around, there's like 50 of them. You're like, oh, yeah. So Red Baron says got those Pampers on. He said if it's the Dragão, you piss right on their seat.
But look, I do think that like I don't force. I mean, I don't know. I don't go to these big games, but like unless if I'm going to a Porto game and I'm dressed up in my Benfica shirt and I'm going to the game, I hope that unless I start shit with someone,
dude,
it's not like that.
Don't even try
I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, me and Bill went to England. And we went to Stamford Bridge, Chelsea Arsenal, and I was going to wear an Arsenal pullover, and we were sitting amongst the fans, and a friend of ours, Fergus, he said, listen, if you're going to Stamford Bridge, watch Chelsea Arsenal, you need to put something else on. I couldn't wear an Arsenal shirt. I couldn't even celebrate. He's like, if they score, don't celebrate. That game ended 0-0, but like he was like, don't celebrate.
And there was kids in front of us, Arsenal fans.
Yeah, next to us.
Talking so much shit about Chelsea. I'm like, dude,
I turned to Mike at
one point. I go, if shit pops off, you're with
I'm a
us.
neutral. I'm a neutral. But right to your point, Kenny, right? Like just wearing the shirt, and I think Oscar was going to say that as well, right? Like just even wearing the shirt amongst the fans, again, there's going to be assholes that are going to give you trouble, and there's going to be fans that are welcoming, right? And I think it should be like that. But like Kevin said, right? Too many bad apples, not just in the ultras, but just in fans. There's people that are sick and sitting amongst the fans that aren't in the ultras, and just have this hatred mentality, right? Like you can't be a fan, right? Like I hate you, right?
Yeah. It's not even just the big teams. Like I went to the Benfica Chaves game in Chaves a few years ago, and there was this. She was like 80 or 90 years old when Benfica scored the game-winning goal. There were Benfica fans like behind her celebrating. She legit turned around with the Bengala and just started fucking swinging, dude. Like 80, 90 years old, and I was like, okay. I mean, like. She's been through the shit with Chaves, and they were in the first division, so she wasn't taking it from anyone. But it's like when it's like you get those fans and it's like in their blood, and they can't just like separate that it's just a fucking game. Yep. Like you're gonna have issues like that.
I do think it's mostly like the clocks. I mean, like I said, I have family split Benfica Porto. They've gone to Porto games. They walk in there together. They've never had any issues. Maybe that's the difference. Obviously, walking
if you're by yourself.
Yeah, by yourself, probably it's not something smart you should do. But I did want to say, I think it was Kevin who mentioned about the Montreal going to Cruz Azul or whatever. I would say that I think that's where it starts, right? It's got to start higher. It's got to start with the federation, the country itself. They got to start doing the same type of preventative measures that like we've done in Portugal to kind of cut that stuff out of the game. Unless that happens, and I think even like if I'm an MLS team or I'm not going to Mexico to play any games until that stuff's figured out. And I think it starts with the federation first, then the country itself and the league itself, and from there on out. So we'll see what happens.
I think the only way to like truly cut it out of the game, I mean, they did in England, like they legit just shut down the stadium, like they banned all fans, and it fixed it for years in England, and now you're starting to.
But it's not as bad as it was back in the day.
Right, exactly. It's not as bad, but you're starting to see it creep up more often now in England. But I mean, that was the only way to fix it. Like they got to the point where they had to just empty stadiums, and that was it.
Or like I would go as severe as moving that team to second division. Hey, right there, that's your punishment. Get the fuck out. Now
but does that fix it? Like then you got the fans. You have the fans that are more pissed that now they're in the fucking second division and they're gonna go.
Right.
Good. Don't be assholes.
No,
they're gonna go fuck up Millwall fans instead of.
They're not. To me, they're not fans.
I agree with you, Kenny.
It's almost like I said about the flares, right? If this happened to start the luge, right, and the Benfica fans threw flares into the game, or any other fans because it happened to start the luge, I would suspend the fans for empty the stadium for the next whatever games, the X games, and the fans would be like, "Shit, I'm not going to do that again because I'm hurting my team." That's if they have a head on their. Some of them are animals, so they don't even have a head. But you know.
Agripino says, começar a castigar os clubes. Lyon e Marselha, um adepto mandou uma garrafa ao jogador de Marselha, ficou adiado, o jogo ficou adiado e voltaram a jogar e tiraram um ponto ao Lyon e esse adepto não pode mais ir ver o seu Lyon. Right? Exactly, right? Identificar quem faz estas merdas, mas mais uma vez, é uma das razões que muito dos adeptos, entre aspas, não querem o cartão de adepto, porque depois ficam identificados, mas mesmo assim há câmaras.
I have a question, So if you can't say you can't buy any more tickets under your name, but if somebody I buy a ticket under my brother's name and
but that's the problem is that in Portugal it's not like that. For example, in Italy, when you buy a ticket, the ticket's identified to you. Even if you buy it for someone else, the ticket's identified for you.
So now you get in trouble.
You're identified, exactly. That's the thing. There has to be an identification process of whose ticket is this,
right?
And that's how you start identifying.
I bought a ticket for you, and
but you have to put the name of who it's for. There was just recently one of the dirigents from one of the clubs that is in Italy. His name was spelt wrong on the ticket, and they didn't let him into the stadium. They had to go reprint the ticket for him.
So they show ID and show the ticket.
Correct. The name is associated to you, and you have to validate.
There's no way. They barely look at your ticket in Portugal. Never mind sitting there looking through. That's the thing. Like you can identify these guys, right? But like, let's say you got a list of like 30 guys. How are you gonna on game day be able to track
65,000 people? You're gonna track 30? Like it's hard. Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah. Carlos says they have to identify these guys no matter how long it takes. Mas o macaco foi castigado 3 meses e no fim de semana estava lá no Dragão. Estava lá no Dragão porque ele recorreu ao castigo. Por isso, o castigo ainda não está ativo. É por isso que ele ainda está no estádio. Bill mentioned 70s, 80s was very rough for fans in England. Don't know how they fixed the problem. Hooligans were a big problem. They took away alcohol. And England was banned from European competitions for a number of years. No dia de jogo era obrigado a estar na esquadra. Exatamente. That's what they should do, right? Verify everyone, check everyone before those ultras go to the stadium. I did want to say one more thing. Oh, to finish this off quickly. What's even worse about the whole entire situation that happened in Mexico is the authorities in Querétaro, they had the decency to come out and say there were no casualties. There were a lot of injuries and critical conditions, but no one died. I don't know if any of them saw the videos that were circulating on the internet, but I don't know how the fact that they can come out and try to hide it and say that there were no casualties is absolutely astonishing. But doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
over there, they even when like the tourism over there, when like there was cartels going through, they were trying to say like, oh no, we're safe here, don't worry, you can come. Like they always,
they don't want to.
It's a different mentality over there.
Yeah, different culture. We're gonna skip the contract situation just because there's a topic here, obviously, that we want to hopefully close off and bury the hatchet here. Pizzi gave an interview this weekend to Record. Obviously, he's still Benfica's players on loan. Whether it was authorized interview or not. I don't know. I've tried to see if I can get some information, but I don't have confirmations. Rui Vitória had a comment in there, or had a video call with Pizzi. Bruno Lage had a video call with Pizzi. And Oscar, I'm gonna give you the floor to tell us
before Oscar goes off. I know he was asking for public apologies. I'll be the first one.
No, do not.
I'll be the first one to say it, because I kept saying when there was smoke, this fire, and from the comments that the managers made, Rui Vitória and Bruno Lage, it doesn't seem like he was one of the problem people in the locker room, I guess.
Look at this guy getting all soft straight away. He just puts his hands up right away. The cops walk into the room, walk into the party, they bust the door.
I want to say anything? We heard from one guy. What do you mean?
Hold on. I'm going to give
one side of the story.
I'm going to give Oscar the floor. Go ahead, Oscar.
All right, so Pizzi. Let's talk about Pizzi for a little bit.
He's got notes.
Holy shit! How many pages? Real quick. How many pages?
No. I just got my phone.
The notes.
No, but so we all assume Correia da Manhã put Pizzi starts problems, and Almeida starts problems, Rafa starts problems. I was always the one, dude. All these coaches think Pizzi starts problems, but they all play them. Pizzi and Rafa and Almeida at that time with Rui Vitória and Lage probably had their best seasons at Benfica, right? So with Rui Vitória and Bruno Lage. There's other players that fell off the tracks, but Pizzi, Rafa, and Almeida seemed like they were always having a good, the best seasons. So to me, it was like, it didn't make sense how a coach, like you had a problem with a coach, but the coach kept playing you. You had a problem with a coach, you gave up on the team, but you had your best season. So like, it just didn't make sense to me. And then you guys started talking about where there's smoke, there's fire. There's smoke, there's fire. The Correia da Manhã said a billion times that Pizzi and Rafa and Almeida are the problems no balneário. So blah blah blah. Just pediram treinadores after treinadores because you know what? It's probably a fucking a fan on that or somebody else's fan that puts this wood into the fire and lets like gullible people believe and run with it. It's almost like it's like the and I'm not gonna get into politics, but I'm gonna get into politics. It's like the Trumpers that believe everything Trump says, type of thing, right?
Oh God.
So it's in it. They go with it. Like that's what I mean. Like the one time Trump said I could kill somebody in the middle of the street and I won't lose fans. Well,
and the other side doesn't go with it either.
No, it does. But what I'm trying to say here is innocent until proven guilty, right? That's the motto. Like innocent until proven guilty. You said I want to hear the coaches come out and publicly say this happened or this didn't happen. I haven't heard them come out and say it didn't happen, so maybe it must have happened. So that's not innocent until proven guilty, buddy. Unless you want to read you some legal documents, that's not innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty is when you hear a statement like this. Rui Vitória and Bruno Lage both come out and say, you were a grand jogador. You have any team is lucky to have you. To me, is a statement saying, Pizzi, you're not the problem. What he did at the Dragão is defend Benfica as a captain, like we all agreed should have happened. It should have never came outside. And then Jesus had a problem with him defending Benfica. And the players said, no, he didn't do anything wrong. Like the interview said, he didn't do anything wrong. But Pizzi goes, I didn't beg for them to be on my side. They chose to be on my side because they thought I was in the right. Right? So I believe that we as fans basically like disrespected Pizzi and what he means to Benfica. Not me, because I was always one of the guys that defended him. But the Benfica fans, majority of Benfica fans, disrespected Pizzi and what he meant to Benfica. And I don't, and because of that kind of stuff, is why I don't blame Grimaldo's for not renewing, because they can go from being a superstar to being trash in 2 days. That's how I end my thing.
Kenny, I'm gonna pass it to you.
No, give it to Bill. Give it to Bill. I don't even want to talk about this anymore.
Bill, do you have anything to add to that? Or do you want to continue your sob story of an apology?
Not sob story of an apology. I'm just from the comments, like me and Kenny have both said it. Like until the managers come out and say anything, like you don't know the full story. And from the comments that we saw from Bruno Lage and Rui Vitória, it makes it seem like Pizzi wasn't the problem person. I think Agripinho mentions like that someone fizeram a cama, you don't know who, yeah, we've all said that, and like those were the reports at the time, and the reports were Pizzi was one of them. If Pizzi was one of those players, do you think those managers would then turn and do this interview or be on this interview saying like he's a great player, any manager's lucky to have him? Like you would expect those managers would get the phone call and be like, no, fuck you. I'm not doing a fucking interview for Pizzi. So like the way I look at it, yep, I thought Pizzi was, from all the reports, he was one of those players. And it turns out, it looks like it in this way, like he wasn't one of those players that was the ones responsible for getting rid of some of these managers.
Ok. Agripino says, Pizzi ajudou e fez muito pelo Benfica, mas penso que como tudo o tempo dele e do André Almeida chegou ao fim no Benfica. We've talked about it before.
No, I don't disagree with that. I even said like a player runs the course.
And cycles.
The player runs the course. But what the way the Benfica fans disrespected Pizzi, it to me is beyond the running the course. You won't see Manchester United saying that to Ronaldo because what the story that Ronaldo has with Manchester United, right? Because they respect him. They respect what he's done for Manchester United, even though like he wasn't there his whole career. But Pizzi had his best career or his best years at Benfica. Did a lot for Benfica. Scored the most goals as a midfielder ever for Benfica, right? Has better numbers than that legends like Rui Costa and João Pinto have for Benfica, right? So like for fans to just toss that away just because he see Correio da Manhã say a story about him being the reason why he gets problems is almost like gullible fans that disrespected him as a player and as a man. And I think he deserved better.
I'll tell you what, and this is a big if Benfica signed off on this interview, which Mike had brought up the fact that there's been reports that maybe they didn't, but if Benfica signed off on this, my thought, when he left, I was like, it's done. He'll go on loan, comes back, and they'll figure out like where he's going to go after this. But if Benfica signed off on this interview, I could see him coming back next season and staying on the team, not being a star, but being one of those locker room presidents, a rotational type of guy. And that is a big if Benfica signed off on him doing this interview, because this is like a Pizzi piece, like clear the air, let all the fans know like you weren't behind all this shit and all the reports that have been happening.
And shit on JJ.
I still think he's to blame on JJ's
because he stood up for what Benfica sucking. He stood up.
So
hold on, I just want to read you a quote. Right? Pizzi said, o que se passou foi que depois do jogo no Porto aconteceu uma coisa completamente normal de balneário. É desagrado normal de todos os jogadores. From what we heard, right, the Rui Vitória and the Bruno Lage thing, I think we have enough confirmation to believe that he may not have been, right? And I agree with that. But the JJ thing, right, the interview that Rui Costa came out and did, in my opinion, based on what he said, what happened wasn't a normal thing, the balneario, right? And he didn't want to, as he went on, they touched on it again and he avoided it again. He basically said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to clear the air. And he avoided the last question about it. For me, and I think Kenny's going there, is the most recent one. I'm not convinced that it was a coisa normal que acontece no balneário, but I'll pass it to you, Kenny. Sorry for interrupting.
So no, and I was going to get there. So to start off with Bruno Lage and Rui Vitória. So I agree that they asked Bruno Lage and Rui Vitória to come on and save face and kind of, put all these rumors to rest, right? And I think they did that. I would agree with you, Oscar, that clearly there's something else that went on. But whoever's feeding the information to the papers, that these rumors are not all very true, right? My issue, though, is why didn't Bruno Lage specifically, when the rumor came out, why didn't he get that out of, knock that to the wind? Why? That would be my question to Bruno Lage. Why wait until Pizzi's been sent off and now Ricard's coming over? Hey, can we kind of put all this to rest and can you give him a some sort of whatever speech or whatever the hell you want to call it, some sort of message to him. That's my issue, because he could have easily put this all to rest, but he didn't. Now, in regards to Jorge, and we also have a bigger problem, right? If it wasn't, because Bruno Lage also said, oh, a mesma coisa aconteceu comigo, right? They started putting things in the papers. Well, who the hell's the leak? Where is this
to
leak
say
coming
the
from?
names then?
Is it the Dita Sound? Because if it's the Dita Sound, then we have a whole big fucking problem there.
O mesmo grupo de pessoas.
He said, como sabes, passei pelo mesmo e curiosamente é o mesmo conjunto de pessoas que nos tentam responsabilizar por tudo.
100%.
Quem são estas pessoas? Is it Correio de Manhã? I don't think Correio de Manhã is just making shit up.
Mas o grupo das pessoas is basically saying the same group of people that fucked Bruno Lage and Rui Vitória basically fucked Pizzi, right? That's exactly what he meant by this. But what everybody thought was o grupo de pessoas era o André Almeida, Rafa and Pizzi, and that's not that. They just confirmed it's not them, it's somebody else.
Well, it's not Pizzi.
But like they say in Portuguese, right? Chamar os bois pelos nomes, right? If you're gonna say o grupo de pessoas, then quem são?
Right. Why did you let it drag on this long?
Did you watch any interview where somebody asked Bruno Lage, "Isso é verdade sobre o Pizzi?" And he said,
I don't know. I haven't. I don't know.
So you think Bruno Lage is going to be like, hey, can I have a press conference so I can clear Pizzi's name?
If he likes Pizzi so much and he's seeing his player getting dragged under the rug, you're not going to say something? Hey, let me clear the rumor here. That's not true.
They did it to him too. It's more like this to them is normal. It's like people talk shit and
this could all be orchestrated to save Pizzi's fucking legacy with Benfica.
Wait.
No, it's true. I could easily say that too.
You said all I need to hear is Bruno Lage. You said that. Am I lying about this?
We've heard their side of the story. I agree.
Now you're already coming up with orchestrated.
Whether it's not orchestrated or not, fine. Okay,
it's not orchestrated.
It's put to rest. It's put to rest.
It's
put to rest. Those two incidences, I'll put to rest. Clearly, Bruno Lage is good with Pizzi. Pizzi's good with him. There was no issue there. But there is a leak, and that needs to be figured out. I mean, there's clearly an issue there, and it's been an issue for quite some time. Now, to what Mike was saying about Jorge Jesus, I still 100% believe Pizzi's at fault for that whole situation. In my opinion, he's at fault.
Because he spoke up.
First of all, he spoke up in a game where the coach wasn't there, okay? And you can say that it wasn't, but in the Spartan game, 2 games before that, I think it was, same bad results, same bad performance. Jorge Jesus was not suspended. He did not say anything. 2 days later, he sees an opportunity where the coach is not there, and he says something.
But he also said, so he said, hold on, I'm just going to add to that, Kenny. He said, apenas disse que deveríamos todos dar muito mais para honrar o símbolo que trazíamos ao peito. I don't believe that's all he said. If that's all he said, I don't believe that JJ would have suspended him for that.
And I'm glad you're quoting it because I don't have it in front of me, but I read into it the same way as you just did. If that is the case, foi uma coisa normal, respeitar, we have to play with more, respeitar o símbolo na camisola. There's no way JJ's coming in the next day and saying, hey, falaste mal, or you misspoke, you didn't have the right to speak there, and you're going to get...
I agree with that.
Go train by yourself. No fucking chance. There's no chance. And JJ's a loose cannon, but there's no fucking chance he's doing that.
There's a comment that he said. He also goes, no próximo dia, like where he got punished, he goes, pedi desculpa por me ter exaltado talvez bocado a mais, right? Okay. He said that, estava exaltado, he said things he shouldn't have said, and he said, pedi desculpa. And obviously, Jesus goes, vai treinar à parte, right? That was his punishment for se exaltar, right? Sometimes, but when you don't have a coach, like in the locker room, because he was suspended, I expect the captain to step up and talk the truth and say, like, the coach usually does that job, and I hope Jesus did it no Sporting, right? But when the coach is not there, and we had an assistant coach that was replacing, but he really was not a talker, I want a captain. I want Otamendi, I want Pizzi, I want whoever it is that was wearing the armband to step up and fucking say the truth. We're playing for a Benfica. We're not playing for Chaves or whoever it is. We're playing for Benfica, and we just got humiliated and with our rivals. So I want them to speak the truth, and they use a lot of swears. We swear right here. Doesn't mean I'm to faltar respeito a ti ou aquele. We swear because we talk with passion, right? But like, and I expect Pizzi to do that as a pissed off player that just got humiliated by his rival. So I don't blame Pizzi for what he said. I probably shouldn't have said words that he's probably said, right? You know, towards Jesus or whatnot. But then again, he got punished. And according to the interview, he got punished. He walked away. All right. The players said there's no reason to punish him. He spoke the truth, and we're behind him. That's according to the interview. I'm only like recording the interview. I'm not making shit up, right? So he goes, I did not ask the players to come after me or to be on my side. I spoke my truth, right? And then the players felt like getting punished was not fair. They believed everything I said was true. They should have played better. Everybody should have given more, and we have to represent the symbol no peito, right? So. Yeah, Jesus probably took a butt hurt because he said Pizzi probably said a few bad words.
Dude, there's a hierarchy. Dude, if the manager tells you vai treinar à parte, vais treinar à parte, and the rest of the players. But the problem with Benfica is the players the players stood on their own. They didn't take the coach's side, and then Rui Costa also didn't take the coach's side. There's a hierarchy there, and the hierarchy wasn't respected. And so at that point, like we've all talked about, JJ's time there was done, absolutely done. There's no coming back from that. And so for me, the piece that changed it all was that incident with Pizzi. Now I don't know what I'm kind of reading some of the stuff on the side, whether he said, you know, mantém o foco e andava com as ideias do Flamengo.
Yeah.
Again, if something like that was said about if I'm the coach and something was said like that about me, whether it was true or a rumor, again, if it's a rumor,
it's not rumor, it's true.
Listen,
but the truth was that he wasn't going to go there.
Yeah, but the rumor is he was having dinner with the president of Flamengo when the president of Flamengo came to get a coach.
Correct, but
right,
you can't stop them from being friends.
As a player, as a captain to Benfica, I want my coach to be focado no Benfica, right? And that's those news coming out. And if you guys believe Correio da Manhã, then believe that shit too, right?
I don't disagree with you.
All right. So those rumors
coming. If that was said, I think, in my opinion, and as a captain, you're totally entitled to question that. But for me, I think that's a question to be asked in private.
No, but I think Pizzi saying what he said in the locker room, it came from the loss, right? It came from the loss.
Correct.
And he stood up and he said what he had to say, the truth.
But do you think that's all he said?
Most likely said stuff he shouldn't say when it comes to swears and towards the coach and whatnot, right? But I've said it. We've all here said
correct.
I
don't disagree with that.
Mean when we're pissed off after a loss.
I don't disagree with that.
And you don't think that is saying that is like despedir o treinador? You're losing the status that I have as a manager, and my captain is saying that about me. To all my players, you're being shoved out the door. So that to me is despedir o treinador by the things that you're saying.
Dude, if Pizzi had the power to despedir o Jorge Jesus, then Jorge Jesus should never be there in the first place.
Unfortunately, it happened because the chain reaction of that was that the players took his side, and then Rui Costa also had to make a decision and decided to get rid of him.
No, and then at the end of it, according to Rui Costa, Jesus told Rui Costa, não tenho mais condições because
it was obvious.
Não tenho mais condições para estar aqui. So they mutually agreed to go,
correct.
Right? So he didn't get fired because hey, you're done because the team doesn't like you.
He basically got fired.
Condições para estar aqui.
Yeah, he basically got fired, but it was in a nicer way.
Just because Jorge Jesus realized it first didn't mean Rui Costa didn't realize it too. There's no way that you can see that situation and be like, yeah, you can go tomorrow and coach these guys again.
Dude, this is me personally. Well, if Pizzi said what I'm assuming he said, right, after that game, is something I would have said myself, right? It's something any of us as captains would have said, and you guys can deny it and say not.
I don't disagree with you.
I would have said the exact same thing. That shit probably happens in 75-80% of the stadiums around the world, right? When they after a bad loss, the captain stands up and says his truth. You've seen stories of people throwing fists between players because they disagreed and they talk shit to each other, right? And the thing is, it doesn't come outside to the public. The problem is this came out to the public, and therefore they had to make decisions because the public was waiting for those decisions to be made. But if it happened internally, because it happens in Porto all the time, I'm assuming Sérgio Conceição at one point then almost come to fist fight with one of the players. I forget the name, but it was known. But they kept it quiet. They never had to come out and do it artigo because of explain this and explain that. Rui Costa had to come and do an interview. No, they kept it inside, and you'll forget about it eventually, and nothing is whatever.
I agree with Mikey that there's a time and place for it. That certain, like, if you want to stand by your team and say we as players have to do better, we as players need to do this, that's fine. But if you're gonna badmouth the coach in whatever way, whether it's a rumor or something that you think, there's another time and place for that. You got to address that with your manager. As a coach, you have that respect with your manager. You're the voice of the team. You have that separate with the manager and figure that out individually. I think it was a poor decision on his part to bring that up in the locker room, because I think that stemmed the rest of the events that happened. And unfortunately, they're both not here now. So
Pizzi saying that no balneário, right? That's a private area. Balneário just between the team and the staff, right? But Gilberto and Verissimo on a Champions League stage telling him to fuck off is not public enough to lose a coach.
So, I don't think they said for him to fuck off. They reacted to his request, but it.
Vai tomar no cu, porra. That's what exactly Gilberto said. Go back and see it.
I know that's what he said, but like that's a common term that you see Brazilians say.
So Jesus has to keep the foco na equipa is a bad language to the coach. But vai tomar no cu, porra on a Champions League stage TV. That's respecting the coach.
I don't understand what you're trying to argue here.
What I'm trying to say is somebody said to the coach, vai tomar no cu, porra, right?
Yeah.
And the other one said the coach has to keep the foco no Benfica.
Well, that's what we're assuming, right? Like one, we know what was said. The other one, we're assuming.
But we're blaming more Pizzi for we don't know than we are for what we know.
Fair.
We're not saying Gilberto fired Jorge Jesus, because I guarantee the whole team heard Gilberto say that to Jorge Jesus on Champions League. Doesn't mean, oh, dude, that's right. Gilberto's right. Vai tomar no cu, Jorge Jesus.
I think I do think that those are just things that are said. Like, dude, we know. Hold on. We know that JJ is an old school coach who's on top of your ass the whole time. He wants you in the right position. He's probably been yelling at him the whole 15 minutes of that game or however long it was to put him in position, and he kind of had enough. Tomar no cu, like it's. I just think it's just one of those things. Like, oh, fuck off, like.
Really? That's okay on the Champions League on TV.
But he didn't. I don't even think it was direct. I don't remember the moment exactly. He looked directly at him and said that.
It was a throw-in. Jesus was yelling at him, and he just vai tomar no cu, porra, like that on live TV.
Well, look, I'm not. I don't know what to say about that. It's. I mean, the whole situation sucks. I think that I don't know what this the interview with Pizzi, I think, was to kind of clear some of the rumors out there, and I think it did that. I think I agree with Oscar. It cleared up some of the old rumors. I don't agree that what happened that day, what Pizzi said, that it was tudo normal. I don't think it was normal. I think it was the first chip in a long series of chips that ended up both of them leaving, unfortunately. And I don't know what it's going to happen. Like, I don't know if this was like to clear the air so that when he comes back next year, things kind of start fresh. I don't know if this is just a thing that Ricard did on the side without any, like you said, without any.
I also find it strange that it's on Ricard.
Yeah, they're one of the culprits of like generating all this bullshit media.
Like when you look at the newspapers in Portugal, like it's A Bola is the Benfica friendly newspaper. So, like, I just find it funny that this is coming out in Ricard.
Yeah, but hopefully we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Seriously,
it's so
hopefully it's done and dusted now. I just wanted to give Oscar his 5 minutes because I know he was happy.
I haven't heard Kenny apologize, but I guess he won't do it.
He's gonna do it in private. There's a moment and place for it.
Not live on TV.
Oh, please, and look at all what Jesus has done for the team, and you don't give a shit either. You think this team's better off without him right now?
No. I've said it many times. I respect what Jesus has done for.
Oh, please! You've told him to suck your dick, and you've told him to fuck off plenty of times.
After he left the first time, I didn't want nothing to do with him. As a coach, I think he's arrogant. I don't like him as a coach.
He's old school. It's an old school mentality that those type of coaches are gone.
I know, so I don't like that kind of personality on Benfica. I have a choice. I can make my own decisions when it comes to person. Bruno Lage, yes, that person as a coach, I like. Even though he ran his course too, he lost 6 games in a row, why not? And he had to go, But that's the perfil de treinador that I like in the Benfica, that Bruno Lage type.
Mas quando Jesus finally took over that first year, e andamos winning fucking 8-7, 6-0. You liked that mentality. You liked
I like the team and I respect the team you put together. Yes, Lima.
And you liked his mentality. You liked that raza that he had, that push. You did in the beginning. You did, and then it ran its course.
When he started swinging the 3 fingers or 4 fingers to the Tottenham coach, whatnot.
I like that. I like that.
Dude, that's embarrassing.
I fucking love that.
You guys can say whatever.
It's because I hate Tottenham.
But then, not even the same época. E jogou-se no Dragão. Did you guys like that too?
No.
Please.
Karma's a bitch, my friend. Karma's a bitch, and
it sucks when you lose. But in the beginning, when we were throwing it down and putting up good performances, you loved the race and you loved that.
I've admitted that's probably the best team I've seen Benfica have in my lifetime was when Jesus was there. I never denied that. The second time around, I think was a lot of wasted money on players that didn't pan out.
I agree.
Normalmente treinador não deve voltar onde ganhou porque não dá resultado.
I agree.
That's what they say. You shouldn't go back.
I learned my lesson. I wanted him back. I learned my lesson. I agree because you lose your legacy. Now his legacy is tarnished, and it didn't work out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
I'm pretty sure if he had gone back to Flamengo, they probably wouldn't do good either.
I think he's going to go back. Fans already don't like Paulo Sousa. I feel like he's going to go back at the end of the season.
He's going to ruin his legacy there too.
Probably. There was one comment I wanted to give here to you, Oscar, since you're a conspiracy theorist. Red Baron says, my conspiracy theory was that Jorge Jesus and his entourage were behind this Otávio Machado's Desta Vida. A lot of that information was coming out in those shows, and he's friends with Otávio Machado.
No, what was the guy from the canal do? It was a soccer channel. It was like they're talking. The guy goes immune from the sound. It was what was his name? It's from a Bola Redonda. No, it was they talk. Benfica, a guy, a Sporting guy, in a Porto guy talking. Not through the talk. It was another one. The guy. Eu tenho informação.
It was the Porto guy, right? I forget his name too. It was the Porto guy.
Yeah, the Porto guy said it first.
That was Ligador. That was Aníbal Pinto.
Aníbal Pinto. Right. So that guy said it, and I'm like, who the hell is like?
He said, I just got a text message.
Yeah, text message. So somebody had to come from Benfica. Somebody in Benfica.
Yeah. I think that's where our problem is. We need to find out what's happening there. Whether is it the players? Is who's leaking this shit? Is it disgruntled players or is it
I kind of agree with Red Baron. Like it could be the Jesus entourage. They're very friendly with Porto.
There was rumors that they were the ones that were pushing that news in the media.
They were very friendly with Porto. Jesus admits it himself. He não tem problema nenhum com Pinto Costa. He's like very good friends with them. So you never know. Because the stuff before with the Pizzi, Bruno Lage and all that stuff never came out. It's just rumors. This thing, facts came out this time from the Balneario, right? So somebody from inside the Balneario is leaking this stuff out.
Some even said that it was Benfica's direção. They were trying to get JJ out. So it's another conspiracy theory for you. We went a little bit longer, but we didn't have as much stoppage time as the game did this weekend, so we're still under the clock here.
We didn't have 30 flares coming at us.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, Oscar threw a couple of flares. I dodged them and weaved them, but we got away with it.
I still want to hear JJ's side of the story too.
Yeah, you probably won't.
I want to see. I'll be interested to see if he actually ends up saying anything about it.
Wallace should go make the interview with him now. And see
seriously. Get the other side of the story. Want to thank everyone that was in the comments. There was quite a few comments. I know it's late for Agripino and maybe some of you other guys, so thanks for tuning in. Makes it a lot more enjoyable to be able to just kind of bounce opinions and get your thoughts on what you guys are thinking and be part of the conversation. Don't forget to give us a like, follow, subscribe, share this, retweet it. Hopefully we can reach a few more followers. Jason said the interview with JJ would be a documentary, or this.
Jay is here too. Can Jay? I mean, an apology on text can count.
Can I? If you want, I can. If you want, I can tell you exactly what Jay said to me in a text message. I
don't give a shit. I wanted to.
Said, you know what, Mike? Maybe you should reach out to JJ and try to get him on here. I'll ask the question.
Oh God.
Yes. Oh my God. Imagine that. He said, honestly, I don't care. He's full of shit, and I don't believe him. And I don't care if Elijah or Vitoria came out in his support. Every single newspaper was wrong that I read, and there was a conflict. Come on, man. I don't buy it. No coach I know has ever talked bad about a player, period. So it makes sense that they didn't speak about him. There's much more, but I think you get the sense. He did say, dude left 2 months ago, and we're still talking about this fucking prick.
I'll give in a little, but you're never going to get Tank to give in.
No. Tank will never give in, but you probably say Ramos is probably
Agripino seja uma questão muito importante, penso para o futuro próximo vai ter de escolher um bom treinador, senão Rui Costas vai ser muito contestado. Isso é a questão muito importante. Quem é que vai vir para o próximo campeonato, para a próxima época? Será Nelson Veríssimo? Espero que não.
I think Abel Pereira, since he's thinking about leaving Brazil, hey, that could have been a good option.
We'll see. There's a lot of options out there. We'll see who's going to be picked. But concordo contigo, Agripino. Esta será uma das maiores, se não a maior decisão que o Rui Costa terá que tomar como presidente do Benfica. Red Baron, great show. Kevin, great show as always. Thanks for doing this. Força Benfica from Carlos. Jay says Ramos scored again. Again, as I said, thank you everyone that was watching. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe. We'll be back on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time with the Portuguese podcast with a different group of dudes. Us for ourselves will be back next week to talk about the Vizela game. I also want to mention that Liga do Palpite, our prediction league, Jason is still on top with 43 points. Or 44 points. Kenny has made a monstrous comeback. He's in second place now with 41.
With Oscar.
Oscar's in that pool as well. He's got 41 points. Bill's got 38 in ninth place. I got 35. You know, I'm slow and unsteady.
I'm gonna have to start an investigation here. There might be some.
Listen, you got
some funds going around.
You got to be moving funds. Okay. Check the Venmo
feed.
You'll find them. Gentlemen, as always, a pleasure. It was a good conversation. It ran a little bit long, but I didn't even realize the time was ticking. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. We will be back. Have a good evening. E viva Benfica.
Viva Pizzi.
Viva Pizzi.